So, Kate, one of the amazing statements that I read that you said was about why the 4 hour week or 4 hour work week is a big fat lie. And I would love to hear more about that because I believe it's a big fat lie too. So, tell me a little bit about where that statement comes from.
Well, look, I think it's not a big fat lie if maybe you're 25, you have no responsibilities, you can, you know, put all your energy into work, and that's great, and set yourself up. I think you would need a couple of years, maybe more than that, to reach that point. But I think for the majority of us, we've got other responsibilities, we've got families, we've got pets, we've got dental appointments and school runs and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's unrealistic to imagine that even if we automate the crap out of everything we do, that we can just sit in a hammock and watch it all happen. The truth about passive income is it's far from passive.
Mm.
All passive income is passive, but some is more passive than others, I think, is another way of putting it. And I think this is a sweeping generalization. The book is great and there's a lot to learn from it, but I think, it's written from a male perspective. And it's kind of this kind of hustle culture where, you get up at 5, have an ice bath, have your green smoothie and start work. Whereas a lot of us were up till 3 with a kid's foot in our armpit, or the dog was sick this morning, or the washing machine broke, or something. Life just doesn't work that way. So all circumstances being perfect, maybe after 2 or 3 years you could have a 4 hour work week. But in reality, I just don't think it's doable. And I think it sets a lot of us up for failure and to feel like we're not successful because we never reach this nirvana.
I think
I
that's
could
a
totally relate. Yeah, sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
we're so passionate about this already. Yes, I'll let you go first.
I was just saying, I can so relate. And when I started my business, it's I felt like it was the expectation around you should be able to do it in less amount of time and make $1 million.
Mm.
And it's like, well, what are they doing that I haven't figured out yet? And that comparisonitis starts to kick in. And I don't think that helps anyone along the way, but it really takes time to build your business, to even work out what it is you want to do and why you have a business and how does it impact your actual life and what purpose does it hold for you. So I agree.
I
It's a
agree, Ness, and I think there's a culture, and we'll probably talk about this in the coaching community, to push messages like earn $1 million, work 4 weeks, and then you think I am missing, I am not getting this. I must be stupid. And if you're
yeah.
sitting in that place of feeling stupid, you're so much more likely to buy that course, to pay for that
Mm,
mastermind, to book that coach. So it's creating this environment of doubt, which therefore makes us buy stuff we don't need, which doesn't give us the answer anyway. But then we go, well, maybe that wasn't the answer. Maybe this is the
yeah.
answer. So these messages that people put out there are deliberately put out there to make us buy their stuff.
Yeah.
We have to see through it.
I feel like you were standing at the window watching me in my first 2 years of business because that's exactly what I was like.
Yeah, and I think you're not alone. And I think it's for most people, it's not the first 2 years. I know very successful entrepreneurs who are still relentlessly joining people's memberships and mastermind looking for the secret. And the secret is there is no secret. You
Mm.
probably already know what you need to do. You just need to do it. A little bit less learning and more implementation, you would get there. My challenge to everybody listening to this podcast, and maybe this should have been my thing for the end of the pod, is to buy nothing for an entire year. Don't
Oh,
buy a single book, a single
Mm.
course, a single template, and instead implement everything you know. Empty your brain of every idea you've had, that list that you've had in your Asana or Slack of things you could do. Do all of them. And by the end of the year, I guarantee you'll be in a better spot than if you bought another course. And I'm saying this as someone who sells courses, so you can see what I
mm,
mean.
mm. Yes, there's that. That's really interesting because one of the things I was thinking about I love books and I buy so many books and I have so many books I haven't read. Can you relate? Oh my gosh. And I'm like, you know what? There's so many books I have read that were so incredible and inspiring. What if I went back and read them again? And I usually never do that, but I actually want to give myself a bit of a challenge for the first 6 months of this year to not buy any new books, either read the ones that I bought and I haven't read, or go back to some of my faves and what else can I take from that? And I guess the theme in that is this whole pausing, is this whole stopping and actually thinking, for what purpose am I stepping into that course or that new learning space? as opposed to taking action. And I think the other thing that's really important to mention here is that it can be really easy to actually fall into becoming a part of the problem as well. So we talk about comparisonitis, we talk about saying, well, hang on, what's wrong with me? I'm not getting it right. But then what do we portray as well on our socials and in conversations that we're having? And this feeling of having to put the mask on or having to be perfect. I mean, I think this is something that, to generalize, a lot of people we go through, and certainly it's been a lot of themes of our podcast episodes around. And personal development, I can only speak for myself, but wow, taking that mask off or that perfection, when I do that, my results in all areas of my life definitely improve. And yet it is so easy to stay safe, which becomes uncomfortable eventually in trying to have that mask of perfection. One of the things I love about you and your brand, Kate, because although this, we haven't met in person till recently, I have known of your work for many years. And actually, shout out to Ali Henshin, one of my besties, who's also in business. She's obsessed with your work, was part of your courses. One of the things that has always stood out to me about your brand, and even you talk about, the misfit, you just seem so authentically you and awesome and down to earth, even despite your exceptionally long list of business awards and business success. Like you're very, very impressive, and you just seem so real. Tell us about that. How do you do that in this world society that seems to support and reward, on the outside anyway, definitely not real results, but that perfectionism?
Yeah, I mean, believe me, like you said, I did it for a while. I thought that, especially when I was a copywriter, I was like, copywriters wear roll neck jumpers and have a picture of them at their desk with their hands over a keyboard. I will do that. But it's so exhausting trying to be something you're not. I always tell the story. I was a big admirer of Denise Duffield Thomas, and I still am, very, very impressive woman. But she's glamorous in a way I could never be. Right? I just can't. But I do remember I went online and I bought a piece of fake hair. And I set up my lights in my office, put this fake hair, it's probably cat hair, and put it on, tried to make these videos. I was sweating, and getting, swearing. And I made this video, which I should share on social media. And it's so awkward and hideous. I even had my perfectly placed succulent and my color-coded bookshelves, all the accoutrement. And then I could never replicate that. So if I actually want to show up, I have to show up. Like today, you've just told me this is on YouTube. I've not even brushed my hair. Do you know what I mean? It just means I can show up all the time. Everything I do is on brand. Everything I say is on brand because I am my brand. And it just makes life easier. But I do know that it comes at a cost because I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Do you know what I mean? And if I was a bit more vanilla, no one's offended by vanilla. It's not anyone's favorite flavor, but no one's offended. I could have a much bigger following of slightly, uninvolved, unengaged followers. Instead, I have a smaller following of kind of more raving fans. And that's the choice you make if you are more you and you're more weird and you show your quirks. It puts a lot of people off, but it makes the people who like you a lot more. So you swap popularity for genuine connection. And I think that's really hard in social media because we all look at the follow account, and we see these follow accounts of 50,000. We go, wow, they've made it, but they haven't made it because often those people aren't making any money. They're just popular on paper, so it comes at a cost, but it's a cost I'm prepared to pay.
And do you think that you mentioned that it was something that perhaps you didn't do earlier on in business? Is there do you think it's an age thing, a maturity thing, or just you get to a point in your business where you go, oh, for God's sake, it's just, this is who I am?
Yeah, it's age, it's time. So I think you could get to this point at 25 if you had just put in the hours. You just get sick of yourself. Do you know what I mean? You get sick of all the game and the palaver and all of us suffer imposter syndrome and comparisonitis. But once you've felt that feeling 72 times, you're like, honestly, Kate, shut up. Like, really? Is this the person we're picking to hate online at the moment and be jealous of? And then we forget about them. And then we find someone else. Oh, look at them. And then we obsess over them for the next 6 months. It's so boring. It's such a waste of time. The hours I have lost going down the rabbit hole on someone else's website, going, oh, their videos are better, and oh, they're speaking at this conference and I'm not. Oh, what a waste. It's so boring. I just got sick of myself. Just got bored of myself, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like what you were saying as well around the learning to implementation. It's just, imagine what we could do with that time, you know, going down that. I mean, I know I've definitely done it. I have got some better boundaries around it these days, thank goodness, because, you know, we create this, well, I'll say suffering in light of, you know, first world suffering, you know, for ourselves. And we can control that and we can stop that. We have a choice in that.
We do. I mean, suffering is a human condition, you know, not to get too Buddhist on us. And it's all relative, as you said, first world suffering. But that, you know, it's the top of, you know, the pyramid, right? You know, once we've actualized our food and our comfort and whatever, we get to this point where it's all about our id and our ego. And we're just at war with this version of ourselves that we want to put out there and how we're perceived. And the really freeing thing is to realize no one cares. We're so worried that everyone's looking at us and looking at our jumper and saying, oh, I want that jumper, or I hate that jumper, or whatever. No one cares. Everyone's self-obsessed and worrying about their own stuff. So once you realize that if you literally disappeared from social media tomorrow, no one would notice, I think that's incredibly freeing and allows you to just turn up and be yourself.
That's so true. That's so true. It reminds me, Nikki, of you know, the conversation we've had before on the podcast about the ripped jeans and that whole thing. We did a photo shoot, Kate, and Nikki had ripped jeans. And when they came back, when the photos came back, she had a little bit of a, we can't put that on our website moment. And then like 24 hours was like, no, yes, we can. I think you know, sort of like
this is symbolic.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You know, that we think we need to sit around in pencil skirts with perfectly coiffed hair and, you know, beautiful white kitchens. And, you know, it's like, we all know that if you move the camera a foot to the left, there's a pile of dirty washing.
Yeah.
You know, we all know that. And if there isn't, and if you are somebody that lives this immaculate life, good on you. If it's genuine and true, there are people like that who have really clean kitchens, you know. But for most of us, we kind of get that it's not real. And as soon as you get a whiff of fakeness, oh my God, I'm off. I'm not going to invest in you. I'm not, because if you're going to put fake stuff up on Instagram, you're probably going to be faking your membership. You're going to be faking your course, and I'm not going to connect with you. So, you know, you know, flaws are relatable. You don't really relate to someone succeeding. You relate to people failing. And it's, you know, unfortunately, you've got to share a bit of that.
Agree.
Underbelly.
And in an authentic way. I know there was a phase, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, of all of a sudden there was this wave of people showing themselves crying on camera. And then that even feels really forced.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh my camera up. Hang on.
Well, in sort of in line with this, maybe a bit of a digression, but really, I think in line with this is also, I woke up this morning thinking about the likes of Pamela Anderson, Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, I know, a bit odd, thinking about the fact that they're on this not mantra, but on the way of no makeup, mission of no makeup, no makeup. And Pamela Anderson, I think she even said something along the lines of, you know, I think she's had a bit of work done and she kind of regrets it. And this natural, like showing up as who we are, not having to put makeup on, even that's a huge shift I notice in my life. But, you know, or the gray hair, or people want authenticity or the realness, but don't fall into the trap of actually setting it up, allowing it to be the real thing. You know, don't go dye your hair gray just so you can have gray hair.
I mean, this is it. And especially for like Pammy Anderson, who was known for being a beauty. It must be a lot harder to go from being a beauty to not being a beauty. Whereas if you've never been known as beauty, it's a bit easier, right?
Yes.
But again, there's nothing wrong with dyeing your hair, getting Botox, putting makeup on, and using filters and whatever, as long as you're honest about it.
Yeah.
You know, like I dye my hair, I have a bit of cheeky Botox, you know, like it's what I do to feel good about myself, and I've got no shame of that. But I wouldn't be going out there pretending this was natural. Do you know what I mean? So it's be you with your super clean kitchen if that is you. There's nothing wrong with that, and don't apologize for that. But I think a bit more kind of showing up as a scruffy beast makes you a bit more relatable.
There's more scruffy beasts out there. Here we are. By the way, your hair looks great. So
thank you.
You know.
I also think it comes back to what we started the conversation with. It's when we're not sure about perhaps who we are, what our business, what do we stand for? We want to be vanilla because we don't want to rock the boat. We've heard that people who get on their soapboxes, get, like
Don't want
this
to be
whole
cancelled.
That's right. And then there's the haters and all that kind of stuff. And so there'd be a bit of fear around, well, I can't shine too brightly because what will other people do or say? So if you're at this phase in your business or your career, like, just, I want you to hear that we see you because people ahead of you have been there most likely. And that permission to say it's okay. It's okay early on would have been something that I would love to have perhaps lived for myself when I wasn't in that what's wrong with me.
Yes.
Why can I do, why have I spent $60,000 on courses and I still don't get it, whatever it is?
Because there isn't an it. There isn't an
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
That's the thing. We're all searching for like El Dorado and it doesn't exist. Like new level, new devil. I've been doing this now for 15 years. And from the outside looking in, people would be like, booyah, with your books and your conferences and your overseas travel. But, I still sit here 90% of the time in my pants in a shed fiddling with Excel. It's not that sexy. Do you know what I mean? A good business is essentially a very dull, predictable business. And again, obviously we know the highlight reel. You see these pictures on Instagram of people going off to retreats in Malibu and everyone wearing matching caftans. You're like, I want to do that. It's like, why? Why do you want to spend 20 grand on this so-called guru? What on earth do you think they're going to say to you that's going to make that much difference? Nothing. You'd be better off just talking to your mate. Do you know what I mean? Stop giving these people your money. Because there's nothing they're going to say that's going to change your life. You're going to change your life. And, the sooner you realize that, the much better your bank balance will be.
Most definitely. And I do, well, you go, Nick.
I was just going to say, even the awareness of, again, why? Ask ourselves that question. That's really important. Yeah. Ness?
I mean, of course, there's a place for courses, and of course, there's a place for coaches. If you've never been on Instagram and you want to do someone's course on how to do Instagram, fantastic. But this might be controversial, but it's also like seeing maybe a psychiatrist or something. There's a period where you need to do that, and then there's a period where maybe you need to do some stuff on your own. You need to take a step back, try on your own, and then maybe you need to see someone else and keep going. But constant coaching and needing to feed yourself courses and memberships speaks to me as a lack of something within you rather than a need that you're trying to fill a hole that will never actually be filled. So as you said, identify the hole, ask why. Sometimes the reasons are legit, sometimes they're not, and it's really hard to know.
Absolutely,
because it is the intention behind that as well. And I think that this is a really important aspect for all of us to consider. Is this action that I'm taking, this need to fulfill whatever the hole is, to fill that hole, is it coming from a place of fear? Is it coming from a place of love? We can break it down to human behavior. We're coming from a place of fear, or we're coming from a place of love. And if it's fear driven, chances are it's a superficial, vanity type, ego driven something that you're looking to feel. If there's an intention of love, or like, I'm going to go practical, return on investment, what's the ROI in this? Then that's a different kind of story. And I think that there is I don't know if it's maturity, but a maturity as in, we've done it before. I start to recognize this actually was fulfilling the hole that was unresourceful, versus this is something that is worth an investment of my time and money. And absolutely identifying that pattern. If you're just doing, buying, going, but not actually taking action, that's a really big piece of feedback right there.
Yeah, and I think it depends as well, like what kind of mood you're in. I often tend to go spiraling down into this when I'm feeling a bit sad or depressed. I buy things when I'm feeling wobbly. Then the next day I'm like, why did I buy that? I think it's also about, the brain chemistry of, sometimes we live in a world that promotes dopamine, immediate reward. You buy a course and you feel like you've done something. You haven't done anything. You've just paid money, but you get the immediate dopamine reward. Whereas what we need to be rewarding is, we need the serotonin, that slow release feeling of contentment, not the highs and the lows. And therefore you have to, if the reward for something is far away, that's serotonin, and you enjoy the process. If you get an immediate kickback, that's the dopamine. It's like when you do, and I've done it before, and I've said, I'm writing a book. and everyone's like, well done, it's amazing. Haven't written it. Haven't written
Yes.
it. But I get so much dopamine for the backpacking that then I probably don't write it because I got my big dopamine. Now I'm in a low after I've had my dopamine, and now I'm now sitting in this place of low where the dopamine's gone and now I have to write it. Better to tell no one. Slowly write it and get your dopamine when you publish the blooming thing.
Yeah.
It's again, we live in a dopamine culture, you know, Netflix, Amazon Prime. It's all about immediate reward, and you have to be careful for that.
Absolutely. And, you know, as you were saying that, I think of the pressure perhaps that some business owners put themselves under. And we talk about thriving without burning out, because when you are time poor, when you're stuck in the busy trap, and putting expectations on yourself about what you should be doing, I should be further along, I should be earning more money, I should know this information. Especially, I know that your book is all about school hours and parenting, and having gone through business when my kids were sort of in late primary school, right through high school. There's this element, I think, of just pushing, pushing, and pushing in order to be able to have success, whatever that some other person's version really, until we got to a point where we were working together and decided, actually, we want to create a business based on our terms. We want to have a day off every second Friday. We want to not work weekends. We want to earn good money, but we also don't need to earn millions of dollars. Like, what's our vision for our business, and how is that going to fuel the lifestyle that we want? And I think that what I've observed from, you know, watching you over the years that I've been in business as well, Kate, is that you make decisions, you turn things off that are doing well in your business. And I wonder, you know, is there a driver in that based on your whole perception of, you know, how's this impacting me and my life? Or is there another driving force behind that?
Look, I'm going to be perfectly frank and say that I was very financially driven. So I think it's really important to define your metric of success from the outset. Otherwise, you'll be defined by everybody else's. But it will evolve over the years. So when I started, it was time. I wanted time with my son. But then I had my son, and I'm like, I need some time away from my son. And then it became very financially driven. I wanted to pay off debt. I wanted to have a secure future. And money became my absolute god, you know, at the cost of all else. And did it work? Yes. You know, I hit my $1 million revenue. Let's be honest here, revenue. But it was highly profitable. My profit has always been about 52, 53% because I'm passive income business. So I hit my $1 million, and you get to that. But because I hadn't attached it to anything in my life other than paying off debt, which is kind of a cold, unemotional thing, there was no joy. You know, great. Looked at my Excel at the end of the year. I've done it. Brilliant. What now? Now do I have to make 2 million? Do I have to get 8 figures? Geez, you know. So I feel like I did reach my summit, and I do not deny anybody that as their goal. If you want to make money, make money. It's a brilliant thing. Life is easier with money. Let's not deny. There's no glory in poverty. I've been there. But it does become soulless unless it's connected back to your life and your whatever. And also the accumulation of things becomes very pointless. You know, I see some entrepreneurs going, I need to earn money because I like nice things. Yeah, but do you though? Like, you know, do you need another cushion? You know, do you need a better, really? You know, when it all comes down to it, do you? So I think this is glorification of like fanciness as well. And I'd rather live a simpler life. So, but that took, I can't deny that I had to get to that point to then come down again. So I don't want to be insincere. You know, I've been a greedy bitch for many years. Now I'm like, my son's 14. I've got 4 years of family life in this kind of vibe, and then it will change. And it'll obviously still be there, but it won't be like this. I'm getting old. You know, I'm 50 nearly this year. I want to live a little. I want to learn to roller skate. I want to make pies. I don't know. And my business denies me that pleasure sometimes because it's all consuming. But I can say this from a place of relative financial security. And that's a smug place to be. Do you know what I mean? Because financial security gives you choice. And that's all it really is. Money, finance and money is freedom. And then you get the freedom and you're like, I don't know what to do with myself because I've spent the last 20 years working like a dog. And I do not know how to relax. And that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for your honesty. I think that is such a perfect example of why being in business is always about, and it's so cliche, but it is about us growing as people and learning
Personal
about
development,
ourselves.
man. Yeah.
100%.
Personal development course in the world. Every day you're challenged. I mean, the very fact that we're even all sitting here doing a podcast, that's taken three-way coordination, bit of tech stuff, the oomph to kind of do a podcast when there's a million podcasts and you're worried like who's going to listen to mine. You know, there's so many things that have led to just even us being here. And we don't, unfortunately, we don't credit ourselves with that. We're like, oh God, we've got to do another podcast. We don't realize that this is amazing. And we talked about authenticity and the fact that, you know, I think that I used to think it was humble. You know, I wanted to stay humble, but I don't think it's about being humble. I think I'm still astonished that I get to do this every day. And that astonishment, I think, comes through. So, you know, every day I'm like, wow, I get to sit in an office in my back garden and talk to people like you. And if you keep that vibe, that joy, that keeps you going. You know, a bit of humble, a bit of astonishment. If you start to get smug and complacent and take this all for granted, that's when I think you become one of those people we don't like on Instagram. Yeah.
And then it becomes that perpetual, like you said, achieving these meaningless goals. So, Kate, I love talking to you. And even what I love about what you just shared then is that success, the definition of success changes as you change, as you grow, also as you, and I'm talking to you listeners, you know, as your environment changes, your age, your family situation, all of that, of course it changes. We can't expect that. Even potentially the reason we first went into business might be different as to why we stay in business now. And it's okay to have the money goals or be defined by whatever it is. Like, I think that's a big thing to take away from today. Whatever that is for you, we've said that a lot in a lot of different contexts as well. Just make sure that it's attached to something of meaning. It's this whole, one of our mentors and dear friends, Joe Pane, talks about this transition from ambition to meaning. I'm reading a book, Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks, very relevant for our age group, and it is the same thing. So let's keep checking in with why are we doing, what's the purpose and what's the meaning in that. And I absolutely love, oh, my dogs are saying hello, astonished. Like, what I'm hearing in that is awe, gratitude, but awe for what we do. And the fact that we have this opportunity to sit here as a three-way. Thank you for sharing and reminding me of that, actually. Like, it's really important. So, you know that we like to finish, 1 second. Just had to clear my throat. We like to finish with one actionable action that our listeners can take. Now, you already have shared one. Maybe that's the one that we land on. In light of this conversation, and in 25 minutes or so, we've taken it to a few different places: authenticity in business, redefining success, staying true to your purpose, whatever that is, not allowing ourselves to get swept up in comparisonitis, being okay to not having brushed our hair in the morning before a podcast. So many things that we've covered off. If you were to kind of pull out one key thing out of all of that, to give our listeners to action, preferably within 24 hours, what would that be?
I want to cheat. I want to give two. I want to give a brain one and a practical one. The practical one first is to spend an hour today going through your emails, your socials, and removing anybody who gives you even a vague feeling of ick. You do not need to follow the big names. You do not need to follow your competitors. You do not need to follow your friends. No one will know. Doesn't matter. Just unfollow as many people as you can. And keep that creativity inside yourself rather than draining it out by looking at other people's content. But the other one, I think, is a bit more of an abstract woo-woo one. And I talk about this in the finish of my book, is really think about whether you want to create a CV life or a eulogy life. Your definition there was beautiful: ambition to meaning. You know, are you ticking off achievements? I must have a membership. I must write a book. I must have this many followers. Or are you creating a eulogy life? What will people say about you when you're gone? They're not going to remember that you had 72 episodes of your podcast. They're going to remember that you made them laugh, you made them feel loved, you know, and that you were a nice person to be around. And I think that's something to take on board.
Wow.
Oh,
I love that so much. And I would have to say that from following you, it's sort of what you put out into the world, that you live that. So so thank you so
I feel
much.
like I'm going to cry.
So before we all grab tissues, tell us, where can people find you, Kate? What's the best way for people to get in touch if they want to be in your world?
You want to join the Tooniverse, as I call it, slightly egotistically. Thankfully, I started off as an SEO. So if you pop Kate Toon into Google, you'll find my 72 sites, my 900 social media channels. I'm an overachiever. I'm trying to come back from that, so I'm sure you'll find me.
Excellent. We'll
Ambition
put
to meaning.
we will definitely pop some links, and especially a link to anybody who wants to buy your book. I can see that sort of in the background. It's been a lot through my social media channels, and I look forward to reading that one too. So, Kate, thank you so much for your time today. We have loved chatting, and yeah, we'll say goodbye.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Kate.
Bye.